zum Hauptpunkt. Ich freue mich total, dich ankündigen zu dürfen. Wir kennen uns schon relativ lange, grob geschätzt 15 Jahre.
Ja.
Und du hast mir irgendwann mal erzählt, du hättest Deutsch am Studium als Nebenfach gehabt.
Stimmt.
Deshalb spreche ich jetzt noch Deutsch, der Vortrag wird nachher Englisch sein. Ne?
Ich soll ein bisschen von Deutsch machen, aber es kann sein, dass es ist einfach für mich, Deutsch zu plaudern, als sonst zu reden. Ja? So, ich mache es. So.
Ich wollte noch ein bisschen was über dich erzählen, weil wir haben uns kennengelernt, etwa Spec-Lead von einigen JSF-Spezifikationen, da kennen wir uns. Und jetzt sagt zumindest Jens und Gerrit, JSF ist ja, mag ich nicht, Finger weg. Und die Jüngeren sagen, JSF nie gehört. Deshalb, er hat auch was ganz anderes gemacht. Du warst mindestens zweimal in Servlet-Spezifikationen dabei, oder?
Ja, stimmt. Servlet 4.0.
So,
Spec-Lead.
In mindestens 2 Servlet-Spezifikationen, entweder Spec-Lead oder Co-Spec-Lead, irgendwas. Ja, das ist schon alt.
Ja, das ist von 2017. Das war bei der Javaland und Bernd. Und das war die Jubiläumskuche von JSF.
30 Jahre.
Eigentlich, das war 14 Jahre. 14 Jahre. Eine lange Zeit.
So, Servlet, ne? Servlet ist überall. Ne? Also jeder Application Server hat Servlet, aber ohne Servlet gäbe es auch kein Tomcat, kein Jetty, kein Spring Boot, kein Helidon,
Stimmt.
Kein Micronaut.
Quarkus, oder?
Gäbe es alles nicht. Da hatte Ed schon seine Finger drin. Ne? So, und jetzt erzähle ich nichts mehr, jetzt fängst du einfach an.
Okay, super. So, ja, ich bin sehr glücklich hier zu sein und so viele Leute zu sehen. Und besondersweise mit Bernd, als Bernd hat gesagt, wir sind alte Freunde, alte Bekannte und auch der Mitarbeiter mit dem Jakarta Specifications. Und jetzt fangen wir an. Ich sollte meine Slides hier machen. So, get rid of the hateful Twitter anyway. Sad what happened to Twitter. Okay. PowerPoint. Slideshow. Oh, okay. I might need to change the resolution later. But for now, we can start with the slides. Play from start. Okay. I'm here to talk about Java and AI with LangChain for J. And I am just uploaded the slides moments ago. You can get them there from SlideShare, and I will share them with the user group as well. Oop. Okay, here is a bit of my professional history, and these points are starting out from a long time ago, but they're also starting out in different levels of the software stack. And the reason I like to show this is not because of just saying how long I've been around, but because I want all of us to know that we're taking a career journey and we're right now in the middle of a new phase. So each of these big bullet points, client, server, cloud, aside from books, this is just like, it's not a career phase, those are something I did. Although books are sadly not something as big a thing that people used to do. They used to be very common if you're working in a technology thing like Servlet or Seam or anything. You would get approached by Pact or Manning to write a book if you were involved in it, and those kinds of things don't happen as much anymore. A bigger thing is to write or produce video training for Pluralsight or O'Reilly. Is anyone working in that realm, producing training content? It's a very, very good thing to do, but it takes a lot of time, like writing did. But I'm on this journey now, and so are you all, and then there's another level here that would be AI, because we're in this AI era, and it is changing a lot of things. But the point is, if you manage to continue to come to Java user groups and keep your skills current, you're doing the right thing in terms of riding on top of the crest of these different waves rather than getting drowned underneath it. And it's a challenge, and it's getting harder and harder, and I'm hoping to adjust to this AI one myself. We'll see, because it's still very new to me. Also, I would like to announce there is a bit of a change in the content from the posted agenda. I decided I wanted to make it even more current, something that happened just like in the last 2 weeks. So I'm not going to be focusing on the whole landscape of Java AI, how you use it to perform these things. There is a lot of great content out there on that, and I do have a link to EasyRag with LangChain4j and Docker from my colleague Julien Dubois. So I hope that's okay. And if I end up finishing early, I have some other content because I'm on a tour, Jug tour around Javaland. So this is my 5th stop. Tomorrow I'll be in Bielefeld. Es gibt doch. And I'm very excited to go there for the first time. I'm going to see the Bielefeld Verschwörung Gedenkstein. So that's going to be neat. Then we have Javaland next week. So is anyone going to Javaland? Yes, a few hands. Okay. If you haven't gone, I highly recommend it. I've been to every one. It's a really, really great community conference. And also, it is the top of the Java conferences in Germany. But you have a really nice ramp for getting involved yourself here. And I'll come to more on that later, but Javaland is the top level. Then underneath that, you have like Java Forum Nord, BedCon in Berlin, and Jug Saxony. They have their own conference. And there's probably even some other ones that are happening. And then you have individual Java user groups. So you can learn, you can attend, but you can also speak and present. And I'll talk a little bit about why that's important in the coming slides. Another interesting thing, you can see there's a different city in every night, right? So today I'm just thinking to myself, because I'm taking the train, there was a transportation strike in Berlin, so I had to have some additional difficulty getting here today, but it was not a problem. But I have so much stuff because I'm here for so long, I'll be so thankful if I get to the end of it without losing something or leaving something on a train, or, because I'm always moving things around. So I hope that works out okay for me. Now, a bit of a change. Is anyone interested in Jakarta EE and microprofile topics? If so, raise hands. Okay, there's a few. We have some very breaking news. As Bern mentioned, I've been involved with this for a very long time, and I'm still involved. My role with Jakarta EE now is the release coordinator. So this is the person whose neck is on the line for delivering the thing when it's on time. Unfortunately, it's over 6 months late, and I have a long story to tell you if you want after some beers about technical debt and technology older than JUnit. If you can imagine, there is software testing in Java that is older than JUnit, and Jakarta EE is using that, and that's the reason why this has been so late. But we have an important announcement. We did start the release review ballot on Monday of this week, and that's great news. The fastest it will be released is a week from Monday. It must run a minimum of 7 days, a maximum of 2 weeks. But if all of the specification committee members vote yes, then we can release it early. So I hope that happens. But also, we're working on Jakarta EE 12, and there are many component specifications that are now in the plan review stage. That means they're submitting to the community, this is what we plan to do for Jakarta EE 12. And we have exciting things that are going on. We have the new Jakarta data specification. That's 1.0 in EE 12, in EE 11. But as usual with a 1.0, you don't get all of the stuff in you want to, right? In many cases, 1.0 is a minimum viable product release. So what we're doing for Jakarta data after 1.0 is lots more interesting features. For example, a whole new specification is being introduced called Jakarta Query. And Jakarta Query extracts the JQL language that was in Jakarta Persistence and also used in Jakarta Data so that it can be specified at a way that can use more readily in both of the technologies. Another thing that's great is with Jakarta Data, you have the same old folks, like Gavin King was heavily involved in it. And Gavin King was the man who did Hibernate, and which eventually became JPA. So the contributors list is still the same. People are still involved in it, and that's exciting for me too. Another interesting thing, Has anyone heard of a thing called microprofile? Okay, a few hands. The microprofile working group is now discussing whether and how to host microprofile in Jakarta EE. So this is a really big deal because many years ago there was this kind of schism between these two communities. And it's been a bit of a challenge. It's been confusing to explain it to users. But in my role for the release coordinator, I decided, look, we have to solve this config problem. So Spring, who's using Spring here? Probably a lot of hands, right? Exactly. It's great, but it's not an open standard. So that's really the big problem with it from my perspective. Functionally, market dominance-wise, performance-wise, it certainly gets the job done and it has all of the features you need. But Jakarta EE is important because it at least establishes a non-monopoly situation. And coming from the United States, I would like to support non-monopolies as much as I can because I think diversity is really important in all things, not just technology. Anyhow, I decided, look, we're going to push for config. So about 2 months ago, myself and Jared Anderson from IBM, who was my release co-coordinator for E12, we put out a proposal to say, look, can we take config from microprofile, repackage the package names, and put it into Jakarta, because everyone's already using Spring config, right? Anyone who uses Spring is using Spring config. Is that correct? Yeah. Jakarta doesn't have a standard config solution. It's a mess. So anyhow, microprofile config was heavily inspired by Spring config, and we are saying, well, now it's time to put this into Jakarta. And that started this discussion, which eventually led, and also coincidentally timed, soon after this blog post from Red Hat, which said everyone who works on Java middleware and has a redhat.com email address will now be working at IBM and have an IBM.com email address. Has everyone heard that news? So basically Java Red Hat middleware is all moving to IBM. They're going to be keeping the brands. There's still going to be Wildfly. There's still going to be JBoss EAP. There's still going to be OpenShift. All of those things are still going to exist, but they're going to be driven under the IBM management. So those things have kind of coincidentally come together with this proposal coming out to say, let's put microprofile into Jakarta EE. I can talk more about that later. That's not the topic of this talk. But it is very exciting to me because it's almost like the Protestants and the Catholics finally deciding to come back together. You know, that big of a deal. Now, getting into some AI content. Is anyone willing to admit that they feel overwhelmed with the pace of development of AI? I'll raise my hand there. Okay, great. Well, I have some good news for you on that front. You're not alone. Everyone I know, and I know a lot of people because I've been doing this for a very long time, admits that AI is moving faster than anything has come before. Now, it's very fashionable in IT to say, oh, there's nothing new. There hasn't been anything new since Lisp, or there hasn't been anything new since Smalltalk. Many of those statements are actually true in the kernel. One of the people I talked to in this Rockstar Programming book I wrote a long time ago was a guy named Dave Thomas. Dave Thomas was one of the founders of object-oriented programming, so he's that old. And he would say the same thing. Well, there's nothing new, right? But with AI, it is actually something new. Even though, you know, people have been doing AI and LLMs for a very long time, the fact that it's now in the face of everyone, from the man on the street to the CTO in the C-suite to the person sitting in front of the IDE, that's moving more fast. So you have to evolve some strategies. You already did have to evolve strategies, but now it's even more important. So there's two references I want to give here. This book, Developer Career Master Plan, written by Bruno Souza and Heather Van Kura, two of my friends from the Java ecosystem. I was fortunate enough to write the foreword for it, and I gave a talk about it last year at JavaLand. And it talks about some techniques for staying current that are even more important in the world of AI. And in the Rockstar book, I brought up this idea of being a member of an invisible college, a group of friends that share knowledge and help each other stay current in the face of the fact that no one person can stay current on everything. So if you have a group of friends, a posse, or people you know from the jugs, or going to JavaLand, for example, or other conferences, not just attending, but also participating and sharing knowledge is a really great way to stay up with the pace of AI. The next thing, though, is some very encouraging news from Microsoft's Scott Hanselman. It's not really news, it's more of an reassuring philosophy or a bit of pushback about the pace of change. So let me play this video before I get into this Gilligan's Island thing. Hope it goes through.
Global AI Bootcamp, could you please...
I'm sorry, let me turn the volume down. That's what I'm doing here.
Make sense of what's happening in the AI space?
I think it's getting a little out of control. I know that everyone's excited about AI, but I think it's a great opportunity at the AI Bootcamp for everyone to just chill out a little bit. You don't have to put AI on everything. Additionally, I think it's important for us to remember that AI sits on top of data science, on machine learning, on deep learning, on statistics itself. And while it feels like AI just came out last year and we should all pivot and run in the direction of AI, in fact, it's been around for a very long time, and there's a lot of really great experts, some of which we've collected today, that can put this stuff into context. So I'm excited about AI, but let's all just chill.
And during his keynote...
So that message coming from someone at his position level is good to hear, because it makes me feel a little better about this, wow, how am I going to keep up? It's been especially challenging for me because at Microsoft, I was working on supporting Jakarta EE app servers in Azure. That was like my main job. So we built support we partnered with IBM, Red Hat, and Oracle, and we built support for WebSphere OpenLiberty, JBoss AAP, and Oracle WebLogic to run on all of the different container runtimes. So Kubernetes, not just containers, but VMs too. Kubernetes, container apps, functions, and virtual machines. And that doesn't have anything to do with AI, right? It was writing a bunch of bicep templates and infrastructure as code and working with the Azure Marketplace and setting up workflows so that the partners can have the new versions of the software updated as they do their own release cadence and as the Azure Surface substrate underneath changes. So that was what the job was. Then, about 2 months ago, my whole group, including all of developer division at Microsoft, was reorged into this new group called Core AI. And we were told something kind of like what Scott was saying, do put AI into everything. So that was the challenge for me that caused me to be like, well, all right, now it's time to really dig in and start understanding this. So I'm going to pause and see if we can have a little discussion about where people are on their AI journey. Because frankly, I'm pretty close to the beginning, and I'm here giving a talk, but if you know more about AI than me, it's very likely that you do. Please be patient with me, because I'm going to be saying some things that are brand new to me. So is anyone willing to volunteer where they are? Is anyone like advanced in the AI journey? Someone who's up to date, they're already a master at using Cursor. Has anyone heard of Cursor? Okay. So is anyone using Cursor heavily already? Okay. What about being up to date on the different models and what the benefits of each one is? For example, was anyone tuned in and excited when Claude 3.7 came out? Okay, all right, good. And I don't feel so bad. I'm not, because that is possible, right? There's people I work with that are like deep into this, and they know about the models when they're going to come out. They know what each model is good for, what it's not good for, and so I'm at the beginning of my journey for this. Another aspect of participating in JUGS that I want to mention is, because I can do this, I can go ahead and give a talk about something that I'm not an expert at. That means you can do it too. And all you really need to do, and this is something in Bruno's book, all you really need to do is know just enough to get people moving and start the discussion and get people excited and maybe get them to think more about the things. So I want to encourage you all, if you want to give a talk, please talk to your JUG leaders and and consider making one. For example, I'll be talking a little bit about this new thing from Anthropic called Model Context Protocol. Has anyone heard of MCP, Model Context Protocol? Okay, only one. Great. We need some talks about that for sure. It's such a new thing, but also a really huge, big thing. And it's happening so fast. Initially, I'll explain what it is later, but initially, Microsoft was not even a part of it. And I didn't even know until I got here that, oh yes, last week Microsoft made an announcement that they're now supporting MCP, even though it's coming from Anthropic. So it's moving real fast. Another question I'll bring up here is on the matter of trust. Now, even the term artificial intelligence is something contentious. Many people who know what it really is would prefer to say generative AI to make it clear that this is using statistics and large language models to do basically text prediction. But the intelligence comes with these models that are able to iterate on a prompt that is given and break it down in steps. And so there is an actual reasoning and a form of intelligence that is being evolved. So the question of is it intelligence is a question of debate, but I personally believe yes, it is intelligence. So there's this interesting blog post here that I will click on, and I will skip this. And now I get to see if the font is too small. No, not. Okay. So this blog post was initially published in April of last year, and they're continually updating it. And when it was published, they posed this question to a number of current LLMs at that point: which episode of Gilligan's Island was about mind reading? This is an American TV show that was published in the late 1960s, early 1970s. I don't expect anyone here to know about it. But the point of this question is, well, there's not enough text out there about this, so models couldn't reason about it, and therefore we're proving that models do not reason. But the blog post has been continually updated, so let me make this bigger. And if we search for 3.7, we can see that it got it right. This was the first model that was able to answer this question that none of them were able to do. So where is it saying here? In this episode, blah, yeah. So Sonnet 3.5 could get the name, but only randomly, a part of the time. 3.7 is now the first model that gets the name consistently, but gets all other contexts correct. I wanted to share this with you because it's basically a running test of the models. So as they evolve over time, I expect more of these to become green. It's kind of a silly test, but it does give you some level of confidence that you can trust that AI is having intelligence in some way. All right. All right, now we get into the part of the content that is really, really new to me. So I'm going to try to do my best to explain it. LangChain itself is entirely a Python library. And the purpose of the library is the good old-fashioned abstraction pattern. So with LangChain for Python, the idea was to create a level of indirection between the models and your application data so that the models could be interchangeable. And therefore you, as a developer, could look at the different models and make decisions on which one is good and change it over time without having to rewrite your application code. And as we just saw from the Gilligan's Island LLM test, that is a competition. There's many different benchmarks out there that pit the AIs against each other, and you can check their metrics. There's one that's out there called SweBench. Has anyone heard of SweBench? Yep. Let me pull that up really quick on the browser. SWE Bench AI. Here it is. And it is a data set. Now, interestingly, the data set is not Java-based, right? So it's a bunch of tests, but they're all actually Python-based. And I was asking some of my fellow Java developers at Microsoft, well, hey, can we trust this benchmark? Because it's really only comparing Python. And they pointed out to me, well, that's okay, because it's just showing the ability of the models to perform and let you compare one to the other with the same test set in both cases. So the language, I mean, that's another factor. I would like to see some that are kind of Java specific. Because the language models are all based on tons and tons of training data, if you have a language that doesn't have too much code out there, the model will not perform as well. For example, when I gave this talk in Leipzig on Monday, someone came up to me and said, how good is the model with Ada? Does anyone remember Ada, A-D-A? I've never programmed in Ada. It was written before I was born, and I'm 52, so that's really old. But anyhow, the large language models are not going to be very good at Ada because there's not that much Ada code for it to ingest. But anyhow, the SWE bench lets you compare models, and there's tons of them. You can see there's tons and tons and tons of different models now. Most people just think, oh, there's OpenAI, and there's Claude, and there's now DeepSeek, but those are the big ones. There's smaller ones, and there's really lots of great ones to use, and you can run them locally yourself, which I haven't done yet in this example. The purpose of LangChain, though, is to let you separate yourself from whichever model choice. The same is true for LangChain for J. It's not at all related, only in name, to the LangChain project. They just took the name and said, yeah, we're going to follow that brand pattern. And it does the same thing with Azure OpenAI. Hugging Face is a place where a lot of open source models are listed. Llama is another one. I don't even know what this icon is. Does anyone know what this icon is? Looks googly. Yeah, maybe it is. Maybe it's Gemini. Okay, so that's what Java LangChain for J is. There are two things that I'll be talking specifically about. So LangChain itself, LangChain for J, has a huge number of integrations. There's one for Spring, there's one for Quarkus, there's one for almost everything you want to do in Java. And of course, it supports a huge wide range of models. The ones I'm talking about are two projects that are really the same. So there's this small Rye LLM project, and just last week we got permission from the LangChain for J team to take the small Rye LLM project and put it into LangChain for J. And this will be now hosted inside of LangChain for J as LangChain for J Microprofile Jakarta. Why I'm excited about this is it finally lets Jakarta EE users take full advantage of all of the specifications that Jakarta EE offers while still doing AI. So this is implemented as a CDI portable extension, and we'll see that it lets you do injection and validation and transactions and persistence and all of those things that we take for granted in Jakarta EE, but let you use AI to do them. So that's a big integration step. And it's just at the very beginning because we're only getting started now. The talk content that I have from here is from one of the contributors to Small Rye LLM, this gentleman from France, Emmanuel Hugonet, and he generously let me use his content and the demo. So all of the slides that are coming from him, you'll see this Emmanuel Hugonet on the bottom. So most of the talk is about that, actually. Okay, now Emmanuel, his main job, he works at Red, and he is a contributor for Wildfly. So he will also be going over to IBM as part of their middleware team. But there's a huge amount of Wildfly Galleon modules. Galleon is the module system that Wildfly uses. Is anyone familiar with it? Right, burned a little bit. But it's basically a feature pack. You could think of a Galleon layer as a feature pack. So they have all these different feature packs for embedding different kinds of models, not just LangChain for J, but many others. So if you're a Wildfly user, this is an exciting thing to see. Now, this brand new support here is for the support for MCP, and I'll get to that in a later slide. So for LangChain for J, on the basics side, this is what basically is in LangChain for J. Different models, right? These are kind of, you can think of these as types of models or classes of models. And within each box, there's a whole number of different vendors that support this. There's like DALL-E, and there's the one from Google, and there's independent ones that you can run locally as well. Then there's the language models, which are the ones you all know, like ChatGPT and Claude. There's a set of prompt templates, which are very useful because writing a good prompt is something that can be reused. And if someone has a problem domain that they've taken the time to think about and write good prompts to let you deal with that, those can be composed into prompt templates, which are bundled together into this package of LangChain4j. Output parsers, that's really not so much novel. Like, you just kind of have to have that. And this is another interesting thing where Jacquard EE integration is good because you have JSON P and JSON B as the ways of manipulating JavaScript object notation data. So that will let you integrate with those specifications through their output parsers. The memory module is important because this is how your chat can have state. And it comes into very clear focus when you can talk about retrieval augmented generation, RAG. That was going to be the topic of the talk, but I deferred you to my colleague Julian's talk because he can focus directly on that. And he's not focusing as much on this Jacquard EE integration. So now we come to RAG. So with RAG, it's basically chat with documents. It lets you, the purpose of RAG is really to economize on the amount of money you have to spend to do a query. It turns out that the more you ask an AI, the more it costs to get an answer. So if you want to give a huge data set and tell the AI to reason about this thing, it's actually quite expensive. So what RAG has been evolved is to let you create, take your large data set, pre-digest it into what are called embedding tokens or embedding stores, and then you hand that to the AI so that it knows it can reference your document without having to have this huge working set of data up front. So LangChain4j has very good support for RAG on there. And I think at this point, it's a great opportunity for me to pop out and do a quick aside in the browser. And I know this is looking small, so I'm going to go ahead and adjust my resolution now anyway. Let's see, displays. There we go. That's not the one I want. Advanced, maybe? I'm looking for the resolution. Nope, that's not what I want either.
I think you need to select optimized for, the second one.
Optimized for, yeah.
I think you need to.
No, I don't want to. I just want to make it bigger, right?
Yeah, but I think it's, the options will come after you change.
Okay. Let's try. Oh, that's a little better.
Yeah,
now I can do this.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, because I'm going to be doing more command line stuff here at this point, and also in the browser. So let me open up LangChain4j itself. Here it is. They've done a really good job of the examples. So this is the main website. LangChain4j is the GitHub organization. And if we go to repositories, there's examples, this one. So this is how you can get started. And they're really well curated. So don't be afraid about jumping in because the examples are just really, really well done. So I'm not going to spend time on the basics of it. You can follow them up here. Okay. Back to this play from current slide. All right, now some code in this SmallRye LLM thing. So I was talking about injection. So here you can, instead of having to do a bunch of boilerplate to inject the model, you can actually just say, here, give me the model like this. And the configuration file is outsourced and picked up from microprofile config. And you can also, for all of the things in the box on the previous slide here, you can also inject those resources so you can just use them more easily that way. That's a nice handy feature. Now, it gets more interesting when your application is wanting to do interactions with the models themselves. So there's a number of annotations for this. So you're saying, here's your interface. This is a simple AI service. And you are going to be specifying a system message. In most of the chat models, the system message is the statement that applies to all of the chat interactions that happen in a subsequent, any subsequent interactions. And then you're passing the chat there through to the user question. So that's just a simple AI service. Now we'll come to Model Context Protocol. So before I get to this diagram, I'm going to pop up a demo, and I'm going to hope that it still works. So this is Claude. Claude is from Anthropic, and it has a very nice desktop app. And the MCP stands for Model Context Protocol, and it's basically a way for an LLM to interact with data outside of the model, but it doesn't matter what kind of data it is. It could be a file system, it could be a database, whether it's SQL or document, it could be a Brave search web browser, or it could be Puppeteer as an automated browser. It doesn't matter. There's a huge amount of these Model Context Protocol servers that allow large language models to interact with the real world in some way. So let me pull up that repository for you. I think it's called modelcontextprotocol.io, right? And there's SDKs for these things. There's a Java SDK and servers. This is what I want to talk about. Right. So file system, Postgres, SQL, Google Drive, right? So each of these things, you can have the data that's living in these services be referenced by the large language model. And so Claude provides this desktop thing, which I've configured with these MCP tools. So there's this file here that I'm going to show you. Claude. Remember, this doesn't have anything to do with Java specifically. But this is a JSON file that configures the Claude desktop integration app, and you're defining the bunch of MCP servers. So I have set up Brave Search, File System, Puppeteer, and JavaFX, although I couldn't get the JavaFX one to work. Let me pull that up just in case someone's curious about it. Quarkus MCP servers. Here it is, from Max Rydal Anderson. One of the things I love about when I moved from Oracle to Microsoft is I got to work with the same group of old people that I used to work with all along, but now in a broader fashion. And so this guy, Max, is someone I talk to his team every week, because we're also doing Quarkus integrations for Azure as well. But this is a nifty demo that shows how you can do Claude prompts and have JavaFX draw on the canvas. So it's kind of a fun thing. But I didn't get that working for the demo, unfortunately. Okay, so back to this. So you basically tell your local Claude thing, here is how you run a Docker container that does the stuff. So there's a pre-built Docker server for Brave Search, one pre-built for the file system. And I want to see, where do I get that repo? I was hoping to find it. Maybe it's this file system. Yes, there it is. I did find it. So github.com, model context protocols /servers. And here's where you can see the list of all the different servers. And if you click on one of them, I'll do file system, for example. Here is what you need to put at the bottom in your MCP system. You have to tell it, for the file system one, which file system in your local to mount so that the Docker container can actually write output. And it also is serviced as a node extension as well, if you want to do that. I just prefer Docker for things. So there's a Docker container called MCP/file system, and that's the image that runs locally. So once we've set up our Claude desktop config, we can do something like this. And I hope it's going to work. I have a prompt. Using the Brave Search MCP server, find today's Bitcoin price compared to yesterday and write it to the file system in the file bitcoin.md. And I'll actually change it to put a date prefix on it in case the previous one is there. 20250326-bitcoin.md. Let's see if it works here. There. So I'll go to Claude, and it's telling me I have 34 MCP tools available because it reads the JSON file I showed you. And I'll do this. Okay. So what is it going to do? Oh, okay, it's telling me exactly what I'll do. And this is kind of interesting. It's also secure. You have to keep saying yes every single time. All right, so it ran the Docker engine locally, and now it's saying, okay, I need to write a file, so I'm going to say yes to that. Oop, what's the error? Okay. It's trying. There it is. Okay, so it says projects, but that's because that's the Docker mount point that I've given it. So let me now open it here. Where is my path? So it's actually here. This is the full path. Oops. There it is, 2025 Bitcoin. And there it is. So this is March 26th, and it used the Brave search, it wrote to my local file system, and it output the thing. The reason I'm pulling this up now is I want to explain the roles and the stakeholders, basically who is calling whom in this interchange. So I'm going to ask you to give me a moment of patience while I pull up my notes for this so I can do this correctly. Choose content, extended display. Okay, that's fine. I'll leave that up now so I can look at my notes. All right, so first we have, let me write the players here. Here's the big fat marker works. It's red. Okay. Claude, let me move it up. I'm going to get a fresh page. Let's see if I can draw a computer. So this is supposed to be a monitor with a little thing here, and CD for Claude Desktop. So that's one stakeholder. And so another one we have is the LLM. Right here, LLM. And then another stakeholder we have is the collection of tools. So I'll put these in another box, but there's several things in the box. So file system is for one, and Brave is another. And I had several others that weren't shown, but I'll just put Puppeteer. For example, I had another fun query where I asked it, is anyone a fan of Weird Al Yankovic? Okay, so he has an old song called It's All About the Pentiums. Does anyone remember what a Pentium is? Okay, so there's a lyric in there that's like, you're downloading pictures of Sarah Michelle Gellar like some brain dead AOLer. And for some reason that popped into my mind as I was doing this Puppeteer thing, so I said to Claude, download some pictures of Sarah Michelle Gellar. And so it did. I was pretty impressed. But anyhow, that's what the Puppeteer thing is useful for. All right, so basically you make a query to the Claude desktop. So in my case, I said do the Bitcoin thing. And then Claude desktop sends the first request down to the LLM. That's number one. And then the LLM decides, well, what tools do I need to solve this thing? So it will tell the desktop, go back here, and I want you to use this tool to do I want you to use the Brave search tool, and then I want you to use the file system tool to write the file. So then Claude Desktop will go ahead and make these calls over here, get the response back, and send it back again to the LLM. And then the LLM processes it and sees if it needs to do more work on it. And then it will keep going back and forth and iterate again and again on this until it finally decides it has enough to get the answer. So this dialogue between your application, the LLM, and the tools is kind of the magic of MCP. And the MCP protocol itself is really pretty simple. And there are numerous tools out there that let you write your own MCP servers. But the small Rye LLM and the LangChain4j Jacquard EE module have annotations for this, which I will talk about next. All right. Let me go back to display settings. Nope, not that. Screen mirroring. Stop extending. Choose content. Start mirroring. Great. Oh, but it lost the setting of the resolution. What a pity. That's a pain. Let me go back then to system settings and see if I remember what the helpful audience member said. Displays, optimize for yes, I want this. And will it remember? No, it didn't even. Okay. Now, this is kind of a similar workflow to what I just showed there, but it's from Emmanuel, and it describes what's happening in the LangChain4j MCP model that he is working on, which will be a part of the LangChain4j Jacquard EE microprofile extension. In this case, the user makes a prompt to the web application, which is really kind of running Wildfly. Wildfly does that same thing where it sends out the queries to the LLM, but the tools that it's able to access are the ones that you have annotated. So you can write your Java classes and say, make this thing a tool, whatever you want. And then the language, the LLM, will be able to call those different tools. So just like I showed you the different ones for file systems, whatever, you can write arbitrary ones and make each one its own thing with just the simple @tool annotation. So let me go to that. So for example, the database one. You could integrate with JPA, or Jakarta Data even, there as well. So here's what you do. AI service with MCP tools, same thing as before, but then on the next, tool provider is MCP. So let me now show you some code for this MCP thing. I didn't get the demo for this running locally. I have another demo that I will show that is running locally. So I will play a video that Emmanuel shared with me to kind of show this, and then I'll show you the code behind it. Right here. And Emmanuel video 01. Nope, that's not it. Booking service demo with MCP. Yes, let me show that. Okay. So he's in this car booking app. I'll show you the code on that. So he's just going to do Maven clean install, like we all know. And then he's going to, I think, because he's using Wildfly, when you do clean install, these are the layers. Those are those Galleon layers I was talking to you about. So EE core profile, microprofile, open API. He's using the Mistral model. It's great. He's also French. MCP, client, server sent events. I mentioned Mistral because it comes from France. It's a great model. So he's enumerating the different models that he's using. This is enabling him to use the MCP. The embedding context retriever, that's the one for the RAG. So he's going to now run the server. So it starts up Wildfly, and then he's going to go over to the app. Welcome to Wildfly. he's going to change this to, instead of SSE, it'll be the MCP demo. Yep. Okay, so this is the simple car booking app. And so I'm going to pause it right here. There is a person called Lise Reyes. She is kind of the face of LangChain4j, hugely successful presenter. So if you look for any content on LangChain4j on YouTube, you'll probably find her pretty quickly. And I do recommend you check her videos out because she explains it very well. But this Miles of Smiles demo is just a simple car rental booking agency, and it gets across all of the sort of useful details of RAG. So let's see what he types as a query. How, I guess he's typing wrong. How could you help me? All right. All right, so now he's basically chatting with the LLM, and there's prompts in there as well. So I'm going to let it run a bit. What else? I think he's going to, what bookings do I have? I think that's the next prompt. What cars do you have? Okay, so it's listing that. And let's see, he's going to now do another query. What is it? This is a short demo. My name, okay, so there's a predefined set of names that the app knows about. Notice he has a typo there. The language model just sort of glosses over that. Oh, does he fix it? Can you list my bookings? What? Okay, what is he doing? Is he going to scroll down or what? Let's keep going. Yeah, there you are. I guess he fixed the typo. Okay. All right. That's it for the demo. Let me get into the code. So let's do this. Car booking. Let's go to car booking MCP. And let's look at Visual Studio Code on this thing. Now I have a talk I did last night, which is all about, it's called How to Get Trusted AI in Your Trusted IDE. If you're coming to Java Land, I'll be giving that talk. And at that talk, I show how you can access all of these AIs in Eclipse, any JetBrains IDE, and of course Visual Studio Code. So I have GitHub Copilot installed here, and I'm going to ask Copilot, nope, I don't want quick chat. I want Copilot chat. And I'm choosing Claude Sonnet as the model, and I'll say at workspace explain. Let's see if it does something. Okay. Let me build the thing first. Terminal. New terminal. Let's see if it works. Maven clean install. Oh, J21. Maven clean install. There we go. Oh, okay. I didn't build it yet because I had the video on hand. So I'm not going to bother building it. Let's see if I can do explain the booking service dot class. Let's see if I can find that. Okay, I have to open it. Source main Java booking service. Okay. Okay, yeah, because I haven't built it, I got the squiggly lines. All right, so what we're seeing is here, this is a tool. So the tool package is coming from the org wildfly MCP API tool. So this is declaring that this is a tool that knows how to get bookings. So when the prompt comes along and the user says, give me some bookings, the LLM knows, I have this tool that knows how to get bookings. So that's what's basically going to be called there. And you're basically matching the details that you expect to get from the user to various application level code. Now this check cancellation policy, this is one that's using the RAG thing because there is a policy thing that has been ingested already that describes, you know, when you can cancel, when you can't. So that's a part of the, if you look at Lee's Ray's demo, you can see that working. So that is the MCP way of doing this. Now there's another aspect, another part of the demo where it's fraud detection. So here you're detecting fraud for the different customers, and you can see here's the prompt. So you're going to see a lot of this. Thank God in Java we now have the triple tick syntax because we're going to be writing a lot of these things. And who remembers writing servlets where you actually had to embed HTML code in your Java code? Yeah, that was a real pain, but we're kind of getting back to that somehow again. Someone needs to write like a struts for prompts. God, I hope not. Okay, so let's play his other demo. Close this one. You have a question?
Could you, like, where do these prompts come into play? Is this just like fixed somewhere, or does it detect, like, if the user asks for this or that kind of question, then use this prompt?
Yes, it is the latter case.
Okay.
Right. So it knows if the user asks this kind of question, here, detect fraud for customer. So that's when
So it
that
basically asks the LLM which prompt to use for the real question.
exactly. I think that will come out in the video demo. Non-MCP. So this is using non-MCP. This is, yeah, actually no, it's a different demo of web chat, not the fraud. So let's see what it does anyway. Okay. Okay, yes, what is the best sci-fi movie? Okay, that's a different set of code. And you can see there's a lot of telemetry and stats that are coming back too as well. So, okay, let me go open up the code for that one. I'll close that and I'll go over to CD web chat. Do I have it? Oh, it's $2 up. Yeah, there it is. Code done. And here we are in this one. So source main Java chat resource. Okay, this is just the REST service. This is the REST application. Here's the SSE resource. Let me see if I can get it to tell me where the code, it's at project. No, is it at workspace? Find the code that gives the prompts in this project. Okay. And I hope it expands the query beyond, well, I did say at project or at workspace. So that should make the context bigger than just the file that I have open. Okay. And let's go back to the slides. Okay, that is the demo. Okay. We're actually getting close to the end. Falling back to basic workplace search. Another factor here that you'll run into is non-determinism. So if you're working with the LLMs, you give the same query multiple times and you will get different answers. That is unfortunate. That is something that the models are having to get better at. So that's just something you'll have to, and then sometimes you get this too, which is due to network factors, I believe. Let's try it again. CV. Okay. And if that doesn't work, I'll just move on. Oh, and there's one other local demo that I have that I did get running earlier before I came over here. Okay, so it is used 19 references, which I believe are all of the Java classes, right? It's only showing, here they are. Basic resource, there it is. Basic resource.java, another prompt is defined with the chat with assistant method. That's the one that we're showing in the code. RAG bot, there's a more complex prompt template for RAG. So it's using the prompt template system. Okay, that's great. And I believe we can click on this and we'll open it. Yeah, that's kind of nice. So let's close this over here. So this is standing up the endpoint, the JAX-RS endpoint, and here is in the post construct, the private static. This is, yeah, so using the document retrieval augmenter, and here's building the prompt template, and then it sets it up and makes it ready to be used. And here's the SSE. So this is a service and event endpoint. On message, say hello. So this is executing the chat, and it's using the chat memory that is built there, message memory chat window, passing the HTTP session. So the memory is stored in the HTTP session, and then it asks the chain to execute. And if you go through the LangChain4j examples I showed you earlier, this will make a lot more sense. So, all right, let's move on. So what we did show you was the ability to externalize the configuration to interact with LangChain4j using injections, service for different kinds of AI supports, and it's also cross-vendor. Oh, so it reminds me, there's a demo I didn't show you. I do have an Open Liberty demo. Is anyone using Open Liberty at all? No one. Oh, that's too bad. It's very great. So let's get the demo running. Here it is. I do have it running already. If I scroll up here, you can see this is the Liberty car booking app. So this is the same thing, but it's not using MCP. I will open up the code for this also. Let's go over here. CD small rye LLM examples Liberty car booking. Whoa, Siri just picked up something. Stop. Should turn that off. Okay. Source main Java booking service. There it is. Okay, so this is an application scope managed bean. It's just pre-populating some bookings there. Okay, and this is using the LangChain4j tool API. So it's similar to MCP, but it doesn't have it externalized as a separate process. The LLM is calling you directly. So this is a useful approach as well. And in fact, if you were to run this in a debugger, I haven't tried this myself, and I'm actually going to, maybe for the talk I'm giving in Bielefeld tomorrow, to see if I set a breakpoint here and look at the stack trace, what will it look like? Does anyone remember building monoliths, right? And does anyone remember seeing a stack trace that was like really, really huge because it's all running in one same JVM? So I don't know what's going to happen, but the large language model is going to be in the stack trace, and I'm curious to see what it looks like if it has lots of different frames. Anyhow, that's a demo for another day. All right, so I am running this one locally. If I do JPS, you'll see I've got the WS server running, and actually the JFX application is running there because I'm running the Docker server. So if I do Docker for the Claude demo earlier, Docker PS, yeah, so these are all my different MCP engines that are still running. But somehow the JavaFX one didn't start up all the way. All right, back to this. So JPS is running, the server is running. Let me go to the browser where I have it. This is it right here. So it's Open API, localhost, and get chat booking. So let's try it out. And there are some questions that I've preloaded here in the README that you saw before. There. And I'm not going to type it. I'm going to paste it. Okay. So I believe what's going to happen is, yes, here are your bookings, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So let's look in the code, and I'll see if Chat GPT can find it. At workspace. Look for Java files containing the string 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I am flying off the seat of my pants here. I haven't tried this query at all before. So we'll see if it even works. But anyhow, it did work from an application perspective. Which brings me to another funny point. There's two different levels of AI being shown here. One kind of AI, which I think you're going to deal with more, is the developer-focused AI, using a chat agent inside of your IDE. The other level is the application domain, where in this case we're actually using AI inside the application domain itself. And both of them are equally valid. I would say if you're new to it, focus first on the developer facing aspects. That's where you're going to really get the most productivity increase and most sort of hopefully developer joy, bringing developer joy back into the picture, before you even think about picking up and using AI in your business domain. So use it as a tool to get your work done before you think about having to use it in your client projects as well. Okay, let's see if it found it. Oh, canceled.
Try it again.
Yeah, sure, we'll try it again. You know, it's funny though. I mean, I could just use grep. I often do. You know, come on. Right. Actually, let's do a race. I'll go back to my good old Emacs. Any Emacs users out there? I can definitely tell my age. In fact, I was a little sad because this guy we hired from Facebook, Jay Parrick, he's like, the head of Core AI, and he was having an all hands, and he's like, it's not good enough to just fire up Emacs anymore. And I was like, oh, you're picking on me. Okay, anyhow, CD small ri LLM, examples, Liberty car booking, and of course I have an alias 345. 6, 7, 8. Yeah, that's right there, of course. There's James Bond. So did it get it? Yeah, canceled again. Oh well. All right. Well, that's a funny note to end on. But I do think I had covered a lot of ground here. And I'll end with a very important appeal that I think I want to go to this. And this is really important for me to show you this. Play from current slide. I am not a developer advocate. You can tell by the fact that my demo isn't so smooth and my slides are not that great. I'm actually in the product team, so the GitHub Copilot extension for Java that I showed you, and my team is also working on this line chain for J microprofile thing, although the bulk of the work is all, we're kind of joining it late. But anyhow, in order for me to come out and speak at JUGS and JavaLand conferences, it's important that my bosses can get some value. So we've developed this survey here to help us understand what your needs are. So please do take a picture of this and fill it out. There is a kind of Gewinnspiel. The set of players is everyone who takes a picture of this during my JUG tour. So the odds get worse and worse every day. But when we get to the end of the JUG tour, we'll pick the winners. And also, it's a gift card that you can use for local vendors as well, like Kaufland and whatever. So it's not just American vendors. So thank you very much. I hope this was a fun talk. And we can now ask any questions. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, please, Jens.
What do you think where the AI journey will go to? I mean, will we all be replaced by script keys talking in plain English to their IE, or
Yeah.
Do we have lots of jobs fixing really stupid code written by Copilot?
Yeah, it's wide open now, but the picture is, in my opinion, the picture is starting to get more clear. So one area where it's getting clear, and it's a perspective that I had not seen before, but it makes perfect sense. I presented this talk in Leipzig, the Trusted AI talk. This is the first time I did this one, in Leipzig on Monday. And the host was this company called Exeta. And they're a consulting company based in Leipzig, pretty big one too. And the guy said, look, we are now seeing that our clients are coming to us and trying to use the existence of AI as a bargaining tool to drive down the price of fixed cost contracts, because the customer is saying, hey, you can use AI, you can get it done faster, you can get it done for less effort. So that's one area where the benefits of AI are trying to sort of flow from the vendors like Microsoft directly to the customers by allowing them to put price pressure on consulting firms. So that's one side effect that I didn't even think about, but that's one aspect. Another aspect is turning the act of writing code more into the act of kind of reviewing code. So we're going to be having to do more skill at code review than actually sitting down to write code. If you're going to be a full AI jockey, that's the way it works. And I don't know, that's, for some people that's not as fun. I kind of tend to agree on that point. Another aspect is the notion of apprenticeship. So how do you get good at writing code? Well, you have to write a lot of it. If we get to the point now where we're not going to be writing as much code, we're going to be letting the library sort of scope code from the universe and spit it out to us, then what happens when all the people that know how to write code and debug systems either die or retire? That's going to be a real thing. So I wonder. So to answer your question, Jens, I don't really know. I can only make guesses. And I'd love to get some discussion going about this. Do you have some thoughts?
Lots of thoughts. The thing, like the situation right now looks to me very similar to what I guess at least all the other people experienced when junior developers started to just go to Stack Overflow.
Right.
Take the first solution that looked like it might work and
Right.
just plop it in there.
Right.
And end up with something that might work. Often is really badly coded.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. And it's always like, and there's like a subset of developers that really
That's what it's called.
Yeah.
That's a real thing.
Care about the quality and try to understand what their solution is actually doing.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the ones that are interesting to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah, a follow-up question. What do we do when in 5 years we've got software developers who want to search for a string in their project? They want to use Copilot because they don't know grep anymore.
Right.
But the internet's not available.
Right. I know. Or they've run out of tokens. I think that you have to be cautious of where you're getting your technology from. So I'm coming from Microsoft and I want to sell GitHub Copilot tokens. I want to generate Azure consumed revenue because that's what my boss wants me to do. But I encourage you all, please, to continue to stay smart on how to use Unix and how to understand the fundamentals. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I did something similar to what you did like last week, like looking into like string AI and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wanted to give like coding with AI a chance,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't get any good advice on like using vectors or anything where there were only a couple of Google results at all.
Right.
And it was all too new for the LLMs.
Yeah.
And all the answers were like kind of shit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as I talked earlier about Ada, that's an old language. What if you want to try to do Rust? Same story there. There's not as much Rust. Rust is a great language. Very exciting things happening and being a safe language. I've not done it, but I've read a little bit about it. But I know there's not a ton of it out there for the large language model to ingest. So that's the same problem. Mm-hmm.
And like a lot of stuff that experienced developers like do without really thinking about
Mm-hmm.
it. We have to teach the LLMs, I think, for example, like with fast-moving technology, you often you find an answer on Stack Overflow. Well, that if you look a little at it, you notice, oh, that's from the version that is 2 months old, so totally out of date.
Yep.
And right now, I imagine LLMs won't figure that out.
No, because they don't really, they're not thinking. Yeah. So, you know, we do observe, as I showed in the Gilligan's Island thing, that the models are getting better. So I think there will come a time when that problem is solved, but it's not there yet. Okay. Any other questions, or should we just take a break and have an informal time? All right. Thank you so much for your time.